We are nearing the end of fall camp hype season. Game day is only 2 days away. It's really happening. But with the hype season ending, that means we need to contend with a bunch of different positives and negatives. Let's deal with the positives, because so many of these players are being spoken of like they're going to be the next big thing. Who is being talked about here in the last week? Names that we've heard, names that we haven't. Things seem to be changing in Ann Arbor. We're going to get to all of that here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And hard to believe that this is our second to last show before the season opener, 2024. Lots of new names have an opportunity to come in and stand out. And certainly, it's not going to be an easy one, even though the score you would predict to be an easier one. I know that I think FanDuel has Michigan as like a 21.5 point favorite over the Fresno State Bulldogs. But remember, Fresno State came into Purdue last year, and I know Purdue didn't end up being any good in Ryan Walters' first year. But this was the Big Ten representative from the West in the championship game the year beforehand, and they lose to a group of 5 team. They are always brimming with confidence, even with a new head coach themselves in Tim Skipper. But they'll be facing off against a bunch of different Michigan players that we haven't necessarily seen. And whether it's at certain positions where the battle is still seemingly ongoing, or some that have been cemented since the moment that the last season ended. Take, for instance, Jaishawn Barham, transferred from Maryland, came in, or at least committed to Michigan back in December. The hype for him is at an all-time high. The things that are being said about Jaishawn Barham are, I would say, alarming, but in a good way. Right, like the hype behind Jaishawn Barham is insane at the moment, and that's a really good thing. Here, I had the article up, thus the quotes, but then I lost them as soon as I pulled up my computer here. Where on earth did it go? There we go. He causes problems is how I lead it off. So I asked Tyler Morris, I'm like, have you ever ended up matching up against him? Obviously, that's You generally, it's considered a benefit, can be seen as a benefit when a wide receiver gets a linebacker, but it's kind of like with Jaishawn Barham, who's also really good in coverage, like, oh no. And he said no, he hasn't, but he said he causes problems out there. He says not in camp, but taking on blocks from him, from what I've heard, is not easy at all. He's definitely a problem. He's just different, to be honest. He causes problems. He's big. He's fast. He can move laterally. So I think he's going to be a big help to us this year. Kalel Mullings went further, saying, because he's obviously goes up against him in Oklahoma drills, one-on-ones, even just on 7-on-7, 11-on-11, all that kind of stuff. And he said, you've got to strap and buckle your helmet every single time that you're going after Barham. I'm personally just trying to use Jaishawn as a way to get myself better, because if you don't come correct with him, man, you'll end up on your bleep. All throughout camp, man, just been using it as an opportunity to prepare myself and sharpen myself, because if I can block this, I can block this. If I can block this dude, I can block anyone in the country. Grant Newsome was asked about him yesterday, and he's like, this is the best linebacker that Michigan's had in my time here as a player or as a coach, which he's been here the entire time, right? He didn't go off on Rumspringa. He's been around the entire time from 2015 forward. And he's like, yeah, dude, this is a bad man. That I can confidently say he's probably the most physically gifted second-level player we've had here. Player that we've had here in my time. Probably the closest was Devin Bush, but he's bigger than Devin by a good bit. And I don't want to overstate it, but he's really, really good. He's unbelievable, which has been an awesome challenge for our guys. And then he continued later. He said, we may see a guy who's as good as that maybe across the country, but we won't see one who's better. I would stand at a table right now and say that there's not a better linebacker in the country now than that guy. And that's not an insult to any of these guys who have come before him, the juniors, the Devins, etc., Mike Bees. but he's a specimen, and I'm excited to see him fly around and make plays on Saturday. What have I been telling you since, March? Michigan sees this guy as a potential first-round draft pick type guy. And listen, fall camp's always going to be a little hyped, but generally, what you can discern is when is this super glowing praise? Is this just kind of standard praise? Or is there no praise at all? Like, yeah, he's in the mix. Can't wait to see what he does. That might bode be somewhat foreboding for some other position groups, right? Like as they continue to figure out who's going to be the winner or whatever. But when it comes to Jaishawn Barham, I mean, this is next level, like glomming on. Now we've heard it before, certainly not with this staff, but Donovan Jeter or Josh Ross. Josh Ross is like Devin Bush but faster, which was like, okay, that's not real. Everyone knew that wasn't real. But this is like consistent too. That's the other thing. Is the narrative consistent across people, especially in the same like kind of press conference, right? Like, is Tyler Morris saying the same thing of Kalel Mullings independent of and the same night, right? Like, there absolutely could be the chance that they were prepped to do this, but like, it's not like when you're a wide receiver and running back going out to do your press conference, someone behind closed doors is like, okay, so if they ask about Jaishawn Barham, you need to be as glowing as possible. That's just not happening. So this dude is ready to go. There's a bunch of other players, but I feel like we should get to them after, because we've spent the bulk of this first segment talking about Jaishawn. Let me add this one thing here, and this is from Lou Esposito. And you're going to love this quote. I'm going to read this to you. I'm telling you, he is special. He is tough and physical and explosive, and he can cover. I mean, the kid can do it. I say the kid, the man, can do it all, because he's a man playing a boy's game. I really, really respect him, and he's a guy who's going to be one of those guys where once or twice a game, he's going to make a hit, and the crowd's going to go, whoa, because he's going to light somebody up, and he is ready to go. We are ready to go with him, too. Very little weaknesses on this Michigan defense. And even the guys who weren't around for the championship, oh man, they are the next level. Now, Jaishawn Barham made the all-transfer team from ESPN, one of two Michigan players to end up on that list. Considering that everyone's talking about Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Downs, both to Ohio State, Seth McLaughlin even there, Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore to Oregon. They're talking about Isaiah Bonds going to Texas from Alabama. Keon Sabb leaving Michigan and going to Alabama. Like, those are the names that are mostly getting talked about, but Michigan managed to get two guys in the transfer portal that are going to help them right now and that are difference makers and might be the best at their position groups, which is just kind of insane considering how good these position groups are. Linebacker, offensive line. It's exciting. All right, so I also did a mock of what I expect the starting lineup to be. It's got two surprises. If you've been paying close attention, they won't be surprising to you at all, but it does have two surprises in it. So I do want to discuss those two guys and some other guys that are getting some fall camp hype here as we wind down here in just a moment. Before we do, listen, I can tell you right now, because we're recording this a little later than I have been lately, I could use a nap, but I could use more, and I really wish I had here in front of me, but I didn't think to grab one. It's a 5-hour energy. We got football coming up in a couple hours. I don't know if I'll be here to watch it or if Sarah and I are doing something today. I have no idea at this point. But if I do either thing, I'm going to have to do so with a 5-hour energy, because if you're going to watch football and you're in the state that I'm in, you grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert and watch all of the games. Or if you stayed up too late with an intense overtime game, take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning and you can start your day. So keep that in mind. 5-hour energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling that they need to get through a busy, hectic day. You always know where to find 5-Hour Energy shots right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Stock up on the money-saving multi-packs. Make sure you never run out of delicious, see, I need a 5-Hour Energy, energizing 5-Hour Energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, and that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off of your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with any other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Again, use that promo code LOCKEDONCFB. I'll tell you what. I love Connor. He's my friend. I don't know what his reaction to the documentary is because he's been prepping for his season opener, which happens today. I even said like a hey, you're gonna kill it today, and he never responded because he's that locked in. He's focused, right? So that's exciting for him. But I am excited to kind of turn the page from this now. We've done our 2 shows. We're turning the page. We got the season coming up. Today was supposed to be our kind of preview episode with our special guest. We have pushed that to tomorrow. I will reveal right now who our special guest is, and that's Trente Jones is going to be joining the show tomorrow and hopefully all season to fill into that Jake Butt role that we had, or Mike Martin if you go way back, or solely on Wolverines wire, but not on the Locked On podcast. If you go way back, Devin Gardner. So Trente is going to be joining us tomorrow, and we'll have our show up sometime in the mid-afternoon if everything goes according to plan. Never know, things don't. But that is the plan. So excited that we are going to get that rolling with someone who knows very intimately about those position battles, those coaches, those players, and has shown a remarkable intuition when it's come to football and all of this stuff. So the breakdowns and memes and all the things he's been doing have been fantastic since he retired from the NFL. And so excited to have him. Also previewing next week, we are going to have David Pollack is going to join the show, and we're going to preview Michigan, Texas, and talk about some other things that are really important. And I'm very excited to bring him on, and we'll see who else we end up getting. We'll probably be a little I don't want to say more guest heavy. It's kind of probably about what it was in like 2021 when we had Jake once a week on this show, and then we'd often have a PFF guest, and then maybe we'd have someone else. Like we're going to have like probably 1 or 2 people every week. So that is the plan going forward. All right. So now that we got the announcements out of the way, I do want to talk about the offensive line, because there had been a consistent ever since the end of last season, like Greg Crippen, Andrew Gentry, you're up. If not Andrew Gentry and Greg Crippen, it's certainly going to be Jeff Percy or Raheem Anderson. And now, like, I did my best guess list, and I just kind of based off of the tea leaves, not with my ear so to the ground that I've gotten any kind of confirmation on this, but just kind of based off of the things that are being said, the feeling, the vibes. I have Dominic Giudice starting at center, and I have Evan Link starting at right tackle, which is a departure from what I anticipated, certainly, and what I think anyone did. But when you kind of look back, you kind of realize this is probably how at least the center position maybe has been trending for some time. Dom Giudice has been mentioned often. We all, me, you, everyone, we just all chose to ignore it. You know, he was the second lowest rated commit in the 2020 class. The only one who was rated lower than him was Tommy Doman, the punter, who was a 5-star according to the rankings of specialists. But certainly when it comes to the general rankings, he's not going to be a 5-star or a 4-star. That just doesn't happen. Jake Moody was as good as it gets, and he's still like a 2-star, 3-star type guy. 3-star, I think. But anyway, Dom Giudice has been mentioned consistently all offseason by anyone who would tell you, and we just haven't been paying attention. last year he was injured through most of the year. So he really kind of wasn't a part of that battle, and he had just switched over from defense to offense. Comes aboard in 2020 as an edge rusher that when he was taken, I remember it was kind of the same mentality as a Ronnie Bell or a Kwity Paye or someone like that. I mean, it was mocked, scoffed at, scorned, all of the things. And here he is on the verge of potentially winning that job. Now, do I know that he's won that job? I don't know. They were still continuing. They were like, hopefully we'll find out today. And I believe that was yesterday. But fear not if it is, in fact, your 3-star, because Michigan won the Joe Moore Award with a walk-on at center. Michigan's done really good with 3 stars and walk-ons. Usually when it's one of those guys you can trust, they're going to be pretty good. More so than in the history of, you can bet more that the 3-star and the walk-on is going to be more productive than the 5-star. If they see the field, if they deem like this is a guy that they've had very few misses. Nolan Ulizio is like the only like kind of big miss that I can think of. And he was replaced by a 3-star in John Runyon Jr., who was a hit. So you think about the Glasgow brothers, all 3 drafted, all 3 walk-ons. Andrew Vistardis, walk-on, center and engine of that 2021 offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think one of the things that they really love about Dom Judice is that he having his learning period and his initial kind of growth period being through being an edge rusher, then eventually defensive tackle. He understands what those people across the aisle are trying to do. Kind of same thing with like Khalil Mullings at running back and understanding like, okay, here's what linebackers want to do if I face up, and here's how I can kind of leverage them if I'm in a blocking situation or any of these things. Evan Link might be a little bit more like, oh, I didn't know, but that's Michigan in recent years has had really good luck with that second year guy. Zach Zinter, Trevor Keegan, both of those guys were, well, Trevor Keegan was technically a third year guy, but Zinter was a second year guy. When he, technically he actually got to start as a freshman, but those guys became stalwarts on the line in years, they're either their sophomore year, one way or the other, sophomore, redshirt sophomore. And Evan Link just sounds like he's making that push. And what does that say? Well, here's the thing. We know that we know for like, I guess certain, we haven't seen it really, but we know that Andrew Gentry is really good. We've seen Jeff Percy. I'm assuming he's now backing up the left side. But we know that Andrew Gentry is good based off of like Jim Harbaugh saying things. And granted, we didn't see it, but he's like, we have to find a way to get this guy on the field. He'll get on the field even if he loses. He'll have that Trente Jones kind of role of, sixth man. Who comes out and does things. But that should be encouraging. Also, I mean, I don't know what to make of center as much because it's like Greg Crippen has not grabbed a hold of that role as of yet. And that, you could say, is at least troubling for him, but maybe he took his game to the next level and just still got beat out by someone where the dots started connecting in Judice. We'll find out soon enough. But it's exciting to see that they are coming along. All right, last thing, I want to talk about something that some of the Fresno State players are saying, and we will wrap it up. But before we move on, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We've got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we'll continue on here in just a moment, but before we do, listen, this next service is one that I have used before, and I'm using it again, and I even gave some to, because I just wasn't around at home for a little while, I ate out. So I ended up giving some of these to Sarah, and she was like, oh my goodness, these are absolutely phenomenal, and I want a plan now. And that's Factor. You can fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With over 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll have new flavors to constantly explore. Crush your wellness goals this fall with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Fall is a time in which I always gain weight, and I'm trying to slim down. I'm down to 224 after being 240. I need to get down to 185. This is why Factor kind of comes in here. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon, and keep the kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are always ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support to your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use the code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off of your next month while your subscription is active. Plenty more players I could be talking about. Lugard, Edokpai, Tyler Morris, lots of guys. Edokpai we might not see this year. You know, Edda, I mean, just so many different players in here. But we're going to move on to Fresno State. And Jalen Moss, wide receiver, had 5 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown against Purdue. Knows what it's like to go up against a pretty good Big Ten secondary. And managed to not come away with a lot of yards, but the most important thing, a touchdown, right? You got 5 yards, but if you have 2 touchdowns, then cool. Asked about having to go against Will Johnson this week. He says, my confidence is through the roof. I played a season last year, and I feel more comfortable in what I'm able to do with the ball in my hands, running my routes. My trust in Mikey Keene, that's their quarterback, that he'll get the ball to me. I'm confident what my offense has to do and myself against him. I wouldn't knock anything he's done. He's a good player for sure, and I know I'll win some, compete, and put up a good fight for him to be like, okay, who is this guy? Maybe. All I know is, I mean, here's the thing. Wide receivers from the group of 5 always get drafted. Not all of them get drafted, but you always see, like, you know, 2nd round, 4th round, 6th, 7th rounds. You're like, who's this guy? And they're like, yeah, this guy had like 1,600 yards last year. Could that be Jalen Moss? Maybe. I don't know. But he's going against the best. So if it works out for him, either he's really good or Will's taking a week off. But all indications are that Will is taking a big step forward, not backward. He's healthy for the first time in over a year, which is wild. He did what he did while feeling as banged up as he did. I don't begrudge him that because, like, as I'll get emails from even some of you saying, what do you expect him to say? Like, I'm going to cower and put my tail between my legs. No, I don't expect him to say that. But I think that he's going to be confident, right? Until he's basically shown that he's not. So it's incumbent upon Will to make that a hard situation for him. But if he does, in fact, match up against Will, because certainly they could move guys around. He could be up against Jair. He could be up against Zeke. Plenty of different options. He could be up against Ernest Hausman or Josiah Stewart. You never know. But here's the other thing about it. Mikey Keene has to be able to get him the ball. And one of the guys that's going to be making sure that one of the names I just mentioned, maybe 2, don't end up in the backfield is Campbell McHarg, the offensive lineman getting his first start. That's an ouch. First start, you've got to try to block this Michigan defensive line. He said of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, they are definitely really good players. I've been looking at film, definitely really good guys. I'm excited to get to go against them. I try not to make it more than it is. At the end of the day, it's just football. I worked really hard the same way everyone else is. It just happens to be in the big house. I'm looking at it as an opportunity to show what I can do. See, people ask, what do you expect them to say? There's a big difference between Jalen Moss and McHarg. When someone says it's just football, no matter how they mean it, that's always kind of, well, I shouldn't say it's always kind of a concession, because it certainly, he is saying it's just football, and it could mean it kind of like, I think Aiden Hutchinson might have said that before the Ohio State game, like we strap them in the same way that they do. You know, we lace up our shoes, put on our shoulder pads the same way that they do. You know, obviously that's why Ohio State has golden pants, because their coach at the time, back whenever that was, said, you know, they put on their pants one leg at a time the same way we do. Little do they know, Michigan players put their pants on two legs at once. But that you can tell a definite tone difference between a confident wide receiver, like, oh, you know, I got to learn about him, he's got to learn about me, compared to this guy being like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to make a big deal out of this. It's just football, guys. I'm hoping that people can see that I'm not cowardly. I can do it. Now, again, he might have a great game, and in a way, I'm rooting for him, because that's a difficult proposition, man. Your first start, and you got to go up against the best defensive tackle duo in the country. That's rough. But nonetheless, Fresno State should be brimming with confidence. They were a Dragon Slayer against, I mean, it was a bad Purdue team, but nonetheless, didn't know that necessarily at the time. All you can really look back at is and say, hey, they were the Big Ten West champion, right? Like, yeah, they lost to Michigan. The game wasn't a complete blowout. Like, let's go. So it'll be interesting to see come Friday. All right, tomorrow, Trente Jones joining the show, making his debut. Excited to bring him on, so we will have him on, and we will talk to you then. So thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.